Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be going over the 7.10 support tier list. So if you're new to the channel, you can access this Google Doc in the description. You can also find some timestamps for different areas of the video. If you don't have time to watch the whole thing, you can always just kind of skim through the Google Doc and then skim through the description as well. Now this is going to be a companion video with my patch notes analysis video that I'm just publishing up right now. So in that video, I go over an analysis of the patch notes for 7.10, and I talk about meta predictions in depth. So that's about an hour-and-a-half video, and I decided to go ahead and split it up into two separate videos. This one will probably be a little bit shorter, but I wanted to go kind of in depth over some of the changes and why I think they've changed recently. Because the top of the list is fairly similar. It's a little bit different, but there's been some newcomers that have risen up a little bit too, including Fiddlesticks, Karma, and Maokai most recently. And some of the ones that had been a bit stronger, like Nautilus and Rakan, have fallen just a little bit. So I just want to go into some details about that. If you're new to my tier list videos, I also have a little mini guide with each one of the top 15 or so videos. So if you just click on it, this is in the Google Doc, you click, it'll take you to another Google Doc. It'll tell you just a real quick matchup guide, so who the champion's good with, who they're good against, who they're bad with, who they're bad against, recommended items, runes, and masteries, and if I have an in-depth guide available for that champion, then I'll also have that linked right here. So lots of great information there, just a quick snapshot about you know, how you might want to build this champion and when you might want to pick them, when you might want to not pick them. And this has all been modernized, so I just spent a great deal of time today modernizing this for patch 7.10. I hadn't updated the builds and the items and such since the big change in 7.9. So I went ahead and did that for you as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in here just real quick. I'm just going to recap the other video just in like 1 or 2 minutes here. Just a TLDR version in case you don't want to skip over and watch the other one. Although I would recommend watching it. I go into pretty good depth explaining what's going to be going on with stuff. But I'll just give you the TLDR here really quick. Heimerdinger, bunch of changes. Probably not going to matter. He might be okay mid lane. Terrible as support, most likely. Rammus, probably not going to matter. Still has trouble with jungle clear. Has a really confused identity. He might be good if there are, you know, maybe 4 or 5 AD on their team. Even if they're running an AD support or something like Misfortune. If everybody's AD, he might get used. Otherwise, I think there's just going to be better options at virtually every position. I've seen him picked top lane a couple of times. Has not been very successful. Okay, Fizz, huge nerf. Tank Fizz is probably donezo. We probably won't see him anymore top lane. You might still see him, but he took a massive hit with the nerfs to his W. AP Fizz also took a pretty big hit. I just think that Cassin and Ahri are just way, way better than Fizz right now. They do similar damage. They have similar mobility. Actually, they do more damage, similar mobility, and they're not crushed as hard by Banshee's Veil as Fizz is. Banshee's Veil absolutely destroys Fizz because he doesn't have a good way to bust it. And a lot of his combos involve starting off with a long-range Shark. And you obviously can't do that if they have a Banshee's Veil. So Banshee's Veil is awful for Fizz. And that's going to be a very, very popular build mid lane. Graves, massive nerf. He'll still probably be around, but he does much, much less damage until he gets to about 175 bonus AD. So that's like 3-item Graves. So that's going to make him very vulnerable to champions like Elise early, and he's not going to be able to pressure other junglers like, you know, Ivor nearly as early. So he's just not going to be as good when you want him to be good early on. Although he'll still be okay later, I think there are going to be better, more high-scaling junglers available throughout the game. So I think that Graves may not be completely out of the picture, but he's certainly not in a great place. This also opens up a space for Kha'Zix to come back into the meta, because he had been squeezed out by Lee Sin and by Graves, primarily as early game aggressive junglers, and by Elise to a lesser extent. So we might see Kha'Zix coming back to a lesser extent too, because all of this boosts him by comparison, because everyone else has been nerfed. So Ivern it's really dangerous early game now. He loses a lot of health. However, I still think he's going to be quite strong. You just have to be very careful and invade a little bit less. You know, perhaps levels 1 to 5, but still has great utility later on in the game. Still a very good jungler, but he can get punished, particularly in professional play, by early champions like Elise. I believe that Elise will become the premier top-tier early game jungler. And I think that Kha'Zix might make a bit of a comeback. Now, Lee is still going to be relevant, but it's going to be a lot harder for him because he's got 20% longer cooldown on his R, and he really needs that R to have a lot of successful ganks early on. So that's basically 20% less ganks, which is really bad for Lee Sin. So I still think he'll be okay, but he's got some problems. Lulu, minor nerf to the shield. Not going to matter. She's still a top tier support. Kassadin, very minor nerf. Actually, I think I decided last patch that it was a minor buff. Either way, it's just a neutral thing. Basically, they made his E have a very slight delay on it before it hits, but to compensate for that, they gave it a little bit more range. I mean, it's not going to change anything. He's still super overpowered. Maokai, they changed his Q so that he's tankier. Now he can, cast his Q a lot more. The E nerf is not really that bad. It does hurt the saplings slightly early on, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. However, the mana cost got raised quite a bit. That could be an issue. You might see more hybrid Maokai support if that happens a lot. So you might see something like Sork Boots, Eye of Equinox, Redemption, Leandri's Torment, Void Staff, Night's Vow, or Locket. So you'll primarily get the AP package of Leandri's and Void Staff, but to get that extra regeneration, you might have to go Redemption, and Eye of Equinox will allow you to be just a little bit tankier as well. Now, they did make sure that Thunderlords does not proc anymore off of a single sapling, so they fixed that kind of bug. So that's actually going to hurt his early game damage output quite a lot, but it was pretty ridiculous to begin with. I don't know. I think there are lots of ways to outplay this. If you just dodge the saplings, if Karma just walks up and shields herself and runs away before they hit her, you can really outplay the saplings. However, he still does have great crowd control, and he is pretty tanky. So he's okay. He's okay. I don't think he'll be top tier, but he's okay. I mean, I could be wrong there, but I think that people can play around him a little bit better, especially now. Rakan, massive nerf. He already had enough problems. I don't know why they had to do this to him. They nerfed his shield by 25%, which is a really big deal. I do some math in the video and talk about how big of a deal it is. They buffed the range on his Q. It's not going to matter. He's got a lot of problems right now, and the problems just continue with the shield nerf. So I don't understand what's up with that. He needed buffs, not nerfs. Renekton, irrelevant changes probably. They talked some gibberish about cleaning up some of his interactions. They didn't say anything about stopping the combo of his W being able, you being able to cancel his W with his Q, which is a main power spike that he's had on this patch for really good Renekton players. So that is still intact as far as I can tell. So he's still going to be pretty good. Riven got a pretty large buff. I don't understand exactly everything they were talking about in terms of animation canceling because I'm not a Riven player and I don't understand all of her combos and how you cancel them and why. But it sounded like they were deliberately trying to make that an easier process. So I think that can help Riven out a ton. The main thing that holds most Rivens back, she has the damage potential in her kit, but the problem is unlocking it with really high mechanical skill by canceling a lot of different animations as she goes through her Q motions and her auto attacks and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I think that's going to be a pretty big buff to top end Riven players. So I expect she's going to be pretty strong in this patch. Sejuani, very minor nerf. Now she's not invincible for 1 or 2 seconds when she engages. However, she still will be really strong. I expect her to be a top level jungler in solo queue at least, if not in pro play. You might see her some in pro play. We'll see. But she is quite strong in solo queue. Zac, couple of minor buffs. He's still going to be a B or a C list jungler. He's okay. His initiation is a little suspect. But he can be pretty good. I think he's probably a B list jungler. Maybe not the top of the top, but still a viable pick, still relevant, still all right. They gave him some good quality life changes there, so he definitely got buffed, but I don't think he's going to make a huge splash, but he'll still be pretty good. Support quest item, coin, got minor buffs. It's got some health on it, not a huge deal. I still think it's probably the worst. I have changed my position on this after playing, over the past couple of weeks on patch 7.9. It is the worst. I would only get coin on Janna most likely. Everyone else that's a caster, I feel like you definitely should go for the Spell Thieves line. That extra movement speed is massive on Eye of the Watchers. And the extra AP is very relevant. The mana regen doesn't hurt as much as I thought it would because you get so many other mana regen items typically anyways. You'll be getting Mikhail's on Karma, Ardent Censer, things like that. So I think that you'll have enough mana regen to spare where it's not really a big deal. It's actually probably a good trade to trade 50% mana regen, base mana regen for 10 AP. And that passive. So I think that's actually really, really nice. Extra Targon proc is nice on Eye of the Equinox. Makes it a little bit easier to get some of those last hits to keep the gold rolling in near the end of the game to get some heals while you're pressuring towers and stuff like that. So it's all right. It's not a huge game-breaking thing, but it's a nice quality of life change for Targon users, which helps tanks out, which is good because they need some help. Okay, so the overall meta predictions, just a real quick sweep through this. Utility support still going to be best in show. Nothing can match the plus healing stat. Scales absurdly well once you start getting Redemption plus Mikhail's, Ardent Sensor, and Wind Speakers. Combine that with Redemption, Locket, just all the healing that these supports typically have, healing and shielding. They're just ridiculously strong. You just cannot beat them in team fights. You either have to win the game early or it's just over against most utility supports. Like, the only thing they lack is Engage. Karma even has Engage with a mantra E. So they're just super strong. And I think Eye of the Watchers helps out some of the more squishy supports. So like the Sona, the Nami, and the Soraka in particular benefit very heavily because those are very vulnerable to getting picked off and killed. But now they can actually run away with that 50% move speed pretty well. So I think that makes them a lot stronger. That's, I suspect, why Sona has gone up in win percentage quite a bit. Someone was asking me the other day why Sona is up so high now. Or she was for a little bit. It kind of changes week to week. Who is she? Still near the top? She's still near the top, floating around the top with Thresh. I have no idea why Thresh is that high. This is Platinum Plus. But Sona is typically very high. So I think that, that she can be quite strong. Okay, so she is still somewhat vulnerable to assassins, but that definitely helps. Utility supports also have very versatile items that I just mentioned. Redemption, Mikhail's, Ardent Sensor, Locket. A lot of these are interchangeable. I still think you need to rush Redemption, but after that, you've got choices. You know, you can either do Locket or Mikhail's is typically what I will do. But Ardent Sensor is an option in some circumstances. AP supports, very strong against a lot of utility supports. And I think that Eye of the Watchers also helps them out a lot too. So Fiddle in particular is far stronger. The reason for this I talked about in the last video is that 50% movement speed is massive when he ults in. Because typically if people, you know, see you coming or whenever you just jump over a wall, they'll either flash or dash away or just run as fast as they can. But if you even tag them with just the tip of your ultimate, you're going to get that 50% move speed. And then you're going to run into them. It's going to stack up even more because it can stack up to 3 times. You can get up to 3 seconds of 50% move speed. So it doesn't refresh, it stacks. And it says it on the items. You can get 3% of 50% move speed. That's like a little mini ghost that doesn't ramp up. It's instant for Fiddlesticks on his ult. That's good. So that's really nice. Also, that gives him a way to escape. You know, if someone's trying to chase him, he can now just throw an E behind him, get that 50% move speed, and just kind of bounce out. It's really, really nice. So the Fiddlesticks benefited a lot. I think that he's quite good against assassins, particularly AP assassins. So that's when Fiddlesticks really shines. Now, AD assassins can get QSS, Quicksilver Sash if you're new. It's a very good AD item that builds in a Mercurial Scimitar, which can cancel his fear. It can remove the fear. However, AP assassins, they'll never get that item, most likely, and most of them won't take cleanse. So, you know, that means he's going to be good against things like Kassadin, like Ahri. Those are the 2 public enemy #1. They're very close range champions, so they're going to get close enough to fear, typically. And they're very slippery and difficult to lock down. They rely very heavily on their mobility. So I think that Fiddlesticks is an excellent pick into both of those. He's one of the few supports that can actually maybe sort of kind of handle him. So that's really, really good. He obviously has excellent roaming as well. If you just roll up behind somebody in lane and fear them, they're dead, basically. You can use your ult to get in there. So I think Fiddlesticks is very, very good right now. I think Zyra is also pretty good. Now, Zyra has much less power with the roam, but she has a more reliable poke early on in lane. So she has a vicious levels 1 to 5. Fiddlesticks is pretty awful. You just kind of push them into lane with your crow. But Zyra is fantastic during the laning phase. She doesn't gank as well, like I said, but she has a lot of teamfight damage, and she has a lot of utility with her plants for excellent vision control and objective control. So she takes Barons, Dragons really quickly, and she can use those plants to scout and clear out pink wards really quickly. So I still think that Zyra is extremely powerful. I think Fiddlesticks is very powerful right now. I don't know about the other supports. Those would be the 2 I'd think of. But they were both enhanced greatly by both Eye of the Watchers and Banshee's Veil. So Banshee's keeps them from getting hooked by Blitz. It keeps them from getting hit by Lux lasers, Ahri charms. It keeps them out of trouble big time. So it gives you 1 oops every 45 seconds, 1 get out of jail free card. So very, very powerful. And you don't sacrifice AP for that anymore. You get some nice AP and some cooldown reduction. Excellent item for supports. So, you know, I think you would go Zhonya's into Banshees typically with Fiddlesticks. And with Zyra, you'd probably go Leandri's into Banshees. And then Void Staff as your third big item with each one of them. Okay. So yeah, I think that AP supports are pretty good. And like I said, they're very good against a lot of these utility supports. Also, Sona can't ult to stop the Fiddlesticks anymore. Nami can't bubble him. It takes multiple spells to knock him out of that. Soraka can't silence him. I think the silence actually... I don't know if that goes through the Banshee's Veil or not. I'd have to check the silence field. Soraka might be able to silence him. I haven't tested that one, but anyways, he can tear them up. Obviously, if he ults into any of these people and fears them, they're dead. So if he ults in and he has that, he has his Banshees up, they're done. They're dead. Like, the only champion that could possibly deal with that would maybe be Janna, but once again, she can't immediately panic R to knock him out because he's going to have his Banshee's Veil. So Fiddlesticks is very, very good if you get the drop on these AP supports. They're going to die virtually instantly. So I think that's really nice. I think Dead Stance is going to dominate, as I talked about at the end of the last video. And this is, I'm talking about this stuff so I can set up, and I'm just recapping it. Hopefully it's not too long of a recap. Yeah, it's about 15 minutes. But I'll let people know in the description that it's going to be a recap in case people didn't watch the other video. But I'm trying to condense an hour and a half to about 15 minutes here. Dead Stance, still going to totally dominate. I think it's going to be even more powerful. I've been playing with this guy, Sammy, lately, that I found. He was a gold 2, I think, when I started playing with him. And we have just been tearing it up. Like, absolutely massacring people because he goes Dead Stance Draven. I think Draven is the best AD carry right now, and I really, really like this Death Stance build. It is awesome. And he's very, very good with Janna, who I think is the best support right now. So, I mean, we have been absolutely just murdering people with this dynamic duo. And this is not like a diamond guy. I'm not, like, boosting with this guy or anything like that. We're 10-2 over the last few days. It's a really, really good combination. So, I think that Death's Dance is a for real item, and I think that a lot of people are discounting this. Now, Fiddle has talked about Death's Dance a little bit. He's a little late to the party. If you will recall... Let me just pull this up if I do say so myself. Let me see here. Do that. If you will recall, I think somebody mentioned that Death's Dance might be really ridiculous and overpowered in when it got changed in 7.9. I can't remember though. Let me see here. Who was it that was calling that? Oh. Yeah, really, really good. So I called it in 7.9, and I think I talked about it on the tier list as well. So I've been calling this for a patch. A lot of people are really late to figure these things out. But yeah, I go in depth here in the 7.9. So if you didn't watch that, watch this section about Death's Dance. I do some math for you here. But I didn't think about it in terms of AD carries as much. I knew it was going to buff things like Fiora, Darius, Renekton, Riven, Camille. Potentially, people haven't started using it on Yi, but I could definitely see it getting used on Master Yi. But yeah, it's really, really good. So check out that video if you want to see me do some math for you on Death's Dance. I hadn't thought about it as much on AD carries, but Sammy has given me an idea. I think that Death's Dance is an excellent replacement for Blade of the Ruined King. It's got the lifesteal. Let me just pull it up here really quickly if you haven't seen me talk about this on stream. I'll just talk real quickly about why Death's Dance is baller and why you should be getting it instead of Blade of the Ruined King, even on this patch. Now, Blade of the Ruined King is going to get nerfed next patch. So people are going to have to find a new item, and they're going to finally figure out, like 3 patches too late, that they shouldn't have been building Blade of the Ruined King. But anyways, people are going to remember, oh my god, Critical Strike. I'm doing so much damage now. But you can get ahead of that curve. You can go ahead and start doing that right now. Just put down the Bork. Do yourself a favor, gain some elo, put down the Bork, pick up a Death's Dance. Why is that? Okay, so first of all, it's got 80 attack damage. Bork has 40. All right? Big, big deal on a lot of AD carries. Oh, because a lot of AD carries scale with AD. Surprise. No AD carry is going to scale with the, very few of them. Lucian kind of scales, and Ezreal kind of scale with the Blade of the Ruined King passive because they have special on-hit interactions. But the vast majority of AD carries do not scale with this item. People just get this item early on because they get that small little window of power spike when you get the 100 magic damage and you steal the movement speed. but most of all, it's just a decent lifesteal item early on. It's a good single item power spike. However, Death's Dance, very similar power. Okay, so it's got way more AD. It doesn't have the attack speed. Whatever. It's got double the attack damage. Has 10% cooldown reduction, which is nice. And this is its defense. So it does give you the 15% of all physical damage dealt. So remember that lifesteal only applies to auto attacks. Death's Dance is for all physical damage dealt. So with Lucian, for example, if you go Death's Dance with Lucian, this applies to his Q. This applies to his ultimate. It obviously applies to his double shots and his auto attacks. So it's 15%. Blade of the Ruined King is 15% lifesteal. So this is not just... So it has the same lifesteal, but it's even better than lifesteal because it applies to Lucian's Q. It applies to Lucian's ultimate. It applies to Xayah's E with her feathers. It applies to all of these things that lifesteal doesn't typically apply to. So you get a lot of healing, So just as more healing, I would say. Now, the Blade of the Ruined King does heal with the passive that goes on, so you get that extra little bit of healing off of that. Okay, whatever. But I'm telling you, this is good. Now, this is a major reason why. This is something that's very underestimated by a lot of people. 30% of all damage gets taken over time instead as true damage over 3 seconds. This is a very, very big deal. This means that you cannot get spiked out instantly by anybody. So that Castan jumps on your face, does 1500 damage. You don't die instantly. You get 3 more seconds to hit him back. Now, if you hit him back with 3 autos with a Draven, and, you know, you're critting for over 1,000, you're going to kill him before you die. And if your Janna's near you, she's going to be able to shield you and pull some of this off. And if you hit him for 3 1,000 crits, you're going to heal back 450 of that while you're bleeding out. And the Janna's going to shield you for another 400 of that. So you're basically going to mitigate like half of his damage because it's over time and it's not spike damage. Or the Soraka's going to heal you through it. So there's so many things that help you out because you have 3 seconds to find some way to mitigate that damage, and you get to hit them back during that 3 seconds. That's for lifesteal and shielding and healing. So that's why I think this is a super powerhouse item, even on AD carry. So I expect Lucians are going to start getting this very soon. Xayah's going to start getting it very soon. Draven should already be getting it. I think you might even see this on Twitch. I tried it out on Twitch. It's not that bad. I don't know about Caitlyn. I still think that Caitlyn should go for, you know, Hurricane into Infinity Edge. Twitch should maybe go Hurricane to Infinity Edge. But if you need lifesteal, this is going to be the lifesteal item. So for tough lanes in particular, it's good. You get your coveted Vamp Scepter. I know people love that to get that nice healing in lane. But it builds into some really nice stuff. What's up?
I don't think I can buy those anymore. They're gone in 2 days.
Yeah, they're bad.
2 packs of cookies. They're too delicious.
They are too delicious.
You want to advertise them?
No.
Okay.
No, they need to pay me to advertise the brand. We have some delicious cookies. I've eaten a lot of them. But I won't tell you which cookies they are.
They're like cookies that are sold by girls in uniforms who sell cookies once
Yeah,
a year.
they're knockoff Girl Scout cookies. But, you know, hey, if you're out there and you work for that company, you know what I'm talking about? Sling me the money. Massive exposure. You know, I've got like maybe 2,000 people that'll view this. Think about it.
And
okay.
Chocolate milk.
And Chalky. I definitely need to get together with Nesquik. If I ever get to like 100,000 subs, we'll do some negotiating.
Okay. I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Alright. So anyways, I think that's a big deal. So yeah, Death's Dance going to take over. I'm not sure if people figure it out yet. You'll probably have to hear the Illuminati talk about it a little bit more. You got to get your Philols and Red Mercies out there spreading the word. Philol already did a video about Lucian with Death's Dance, but people haven't started doing it yet. But yeah, it's going to replace Bork, I feel like. And I feel like Draven's going to be a big winner. So, you know, the build that the Draven will typically do is like Death's Dance and the Static Shiv, Infinity Edge, and then typically like a QSS. You could also do like... either a Phantom Dancer or a Rapid Fire Cannon, something like that if you want to throw in some extra damage, but it's okay. Alright, Banshee's Veil, still going to dominate. This is going to help Syndra and Ahri in particular. It's going to hurt Fizz and Annie. Talk about that in the last video. And then the top 5 for each role. Top lane, I think it's going to be Fiora, Darius, Pantheon, Riven, and Rumble if you really want to climb. I think those are the tickets. For mid lane, I think Kassadin, Ahri, Syndra, LeBlanc, and Anivia are going to be the strongest. Jungle, Yi, Sejuani, Ivern, Elise, and Gragas, and AD, Draven, Twitch, Kate, Xayah if she goes Death's Dance, and Lucian if he goes Death's Dance. I think those will be the strongest in each one of their respective lanes. I think Lucian can be really good. It's just not as good with Blade of the Ruined King as he could be with other items. So you could build either Essence Reaver or Death's Dance on either one of them and be fine. Although I think Death's Dance is a good option. Okay, so let's talk about the support tier list in general, why everybody came in here, now that we've done our little recap out of the way. Okay, so who are the best supports and why? Okay, number 1, Janna. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me about this, but that's just how it is, I think. Janna is so good with the top 80 carries. Like with Draven, Twitch, and Kate in particular, she's insanely good. So what is good about Janna? I'm going to go over this just real quickly because people always doubt me on the Janna. I do have a full Janna guide, but this is just going to be a mini overview of why Janna is so strong. She's one of the only champions that I can consistently win with this season. And yeah, I'm a pretty good Janna player, but I don't think it's just me as a player. I think that she as a champion is very, very strong right now, and I think that she's the most misunderstood support in the game because she gets no statistics. Like, the only stat that she gets is she never dies. So if we look at my page here, that's a very powerful stat, though. Janna the Immortal, right? So if you're wondering about my OP.GG, I was up to Platinum 150 LP within probably about 3 weeks ago. Last season, what am I currently? I don't remember. Just 40 LP, something like that. Platinum 440. Last season, I was Diamond 5. And this season, I've just had a really hard time climbing. And I think a lot of it is I've been trying out a whole bunch of different supports, a whole bunch of different metas. I'm playing just an absolute truckload of games because I stream now. And just keep in mind, the more games that you play, the more you're going to run into crazy stuff most of the time. And it's going to pull you closer to 50%. A lot of times. So people who have like these insane win ratios, like 70%, 60%, all that kind of stuff, a lot of times that's on very few games played. It's less than 100 games played. Although, I mean, with Zyra at one point, you know, the first 200 games, I was like 65% with her until patch 7.5 nerfed a lot of the champions she was really good with. But anyways, one of the sticking points with Janna is she just never dies if you play her correctly. So that 2.7 deaths is crucial. It's under 3. She's one of the only champions. I think she is the only champion that's under 3. That is very, very important. And not only because you don't give up deaths, but because you can be risky in a safe way. That's key. Let that sink in. You can be risky in a safe way. This is why Janna is good in solo queue. Because you can try to go save people from ridiculously stupid stuff that they're doing. And you can live to tell about it, right? So you don't sacrifice yourself. Because one of the biggest things about supports, and I know that other people can probably feel me on this, right, is trying to go up and save people who are doing dumb things and you die because of it, right? It's so frustrating, and you just, you know, facepalm and you're like, why did I try that? Why did I let this person bait me into that, right? With Janna, you can do it and get away most of the time because she is an escape artist. She probably is the most difficult support to catch in the game. Very, very difficult to catch her. So this means that, you know, so your team decides to engage in a 4v5, you can run up, tornado somebody, ult, knock them out of there, just do the best that you can, and if people start dying, you can get out of there. Whereas if you go in with like a Leona into a 4v5 and it starts turning south, you're going to die. You're going down with the ship. With Janna, you don't die. And if you don't die, that means you can stick around, you can get some more wards in, you can shield towers and wave clear with your tornado. You can do all sorts of things. So not just avoiding... So you not dying not only like denies gold to the enemy team for the death, but it allows you to stay on the map and do other things on the map that are productive, like ward, stall, buy time, save damage on your towers. You can do all sorts of things with Janna. Also, you can ward deeper because you can get deep into their jungle and place some dangerous wards because you can get out of it. So you can just go around, place dangerous wards, try to clear dangerous pinks, try to save people from stupid situations and not die. So that just means you can do a lot more. You can be a lot more productive with Janna than you can be with other champions, and that's very, very underestimated. So, you know, she gets 8%. She gives 8% bonus movement speed to allies too. This is something a lot of people forget about with her passive. That's like 24 extra movement speed. Even more than that, it's like 25 or 26 extra movement speed, which is an extra boot on allies. So this helps people escape. People don't realize this, but when Janna's behind them and you're trying to chase somebody, sometimes they just get away by just a pixel. You just can't quite get close enough because of her passive. So it's very underestimated. This tornado, super underestimated. It looks like you just throw a little tornado at somebody. It just knocks them up a little bit. No big deal. It is. It's a very big deal. Just that little bit of extra half a second that you knock them up. Give me the difference between life and death. It also interrupts things. So it can stop Lee Sin from going in. It can stop Sejuani from going in. It can knock Rammus out of Powerball. It can knock Katarina out of channeling her ultimate. It can stop Fiddlesticks from channeling if you can get to him fast enough. It can stop people from backing on their recall. It can stop teleports. Like, there are so many things that this Howling Gale can stop, although it looks very innocuous. You can also charge it up and just have it fly into a minion wave, and it'll do pretty well. So even at level 1, it's 105 damage all the way down a minion wave. That's pretty good for pushing into tower, so you don't have to do that all the time, but it's an okay tactic. And it knocks them all up in the air for quite a long time, so this can stall out around towers too. So the Q, very good, very underestimated. Zephyr, pretty straightforward, gives you massive movement speed, slows people down. Little do people know, it actually does a lot of damage. So the base damage is 280 damage on her W. That's a lot of damage. And the slow is 40% for 3 seconds. That's not decaying. A lot of slows decay over time. So that's a 3-second, 40-second slow. That's a pretty big deal. And by the way, it gives you an extra 17% movement speed, which is the equivalent of, you know, something like almost 60 movement speed. So it's almost like having 2.5 free boots just running around the map. I mean, Janna will have a passive movement speed of, you know, even if she doesn't buy boots, of like over 400. So she's still outrunning most people, even when they have boots. She's really, really, really fast. And it turns into a decent burst damage spell that also slows people by 40%. So, very powerful spell. And of course, the Grandmaster of them all, the Janna Shield. 800 range, it's beautiful, got a respectable cooldown. It's kind of expensive, but it's worth every penny of it because it gives out this delicious bonus AD. Now, I've talked about this before. This is the most underestimated spell, support spell in the game. It just looks like a little shield. It's not a big deal. I talk about this in my Janna guide. Let me go ahead and just click on it, and I'll just show you the numbers there so I don't have to crunch them again for you. If you want to know how to play Janna properly, watch this guide. They were frustrated about that. It will definitely hook you up. It will show you the way. It will show you the path. But if we click on this, all right, talk about resistances, all that stuff. So here's a Janna shield, okay? So let's say that somebody, you're giving out that 40 AD, they do 7 attacks over the shield's duration. So that's a total of 280 AD. Now let's say that they crit on 2 of those, so they have a moderate amount of crit. That's 360 damage the shield does. That is a very modest number, okay? Just plus 40 AD, and they're getting 7 attacks in 5 seconds, okay? And they land 2 crits. That's only like a, what, 2 out of 7 is like a 30% crit or something, right? That's a 28% chance to crit. That's just one item. That's like a Phantom Dancer or something. So if they just have a Phantom Dancer at level 9, and they start attacking, and they get in 1.5 attacks per second. Remember, the first attack lands before that timer even starts ticking. So you put the, you know, you're attacking 1.5 times per second. You put the shield on them, they attack immediately. Boom, it starts with 1. So you only have to get basically 6 attacks in over 5 seconds. So it's even faster than this. But let's say that you get 7 attacks in 5 seconds. That's 360 damage. And if you just have a if you just have her normal shield and someone has 42 AP or 42 MR and they get hit by an AP ability, that shield is going to block a total of 340 damage. All right, if you have 20% plus healing, so that means that all you have to have is Redemption and Wind Speakers. That turns into 408 mitigation against magic damage, because your AD carry is going to have 42 magic resist. That means that in total, you are mitigating 408 damage and you're dealing 360 damage on one ability. One ability. So just imagine that this text says point click, deal 360 damage, and protect an ally from 408 damage. Oh, by the way, because you've got some CDR, it's on like a 7 or 8 second cooldown. Like, that's crazy. If it read that, you would be, my god, that's overpowered. What the hell? Like, that's doing more damage than most people's ultimates do, and it's just a normal ability that's a point click that scales even harder. Like, if the person has crit, or if it's a Draven, it's insane. I mean, let's say Draven has Infinity Edge. Every time that Draven hits with his Q, you know, based on this, so his Q is going to do... basically turn this into double damage once he gets his level 5 Q at 9. Then this is going to effectively be about 80 damage on an auto attack that you're adding to him. A crit is going to take it to 160. And then you're going to get that extra 50% off of Infinity Edge. If he gets that, which he will, that's going to be 200 damage per auto attack. 200 damage per auto attack that you crit. If you don't crit, it's still going to be... 80 damage per auto attack. So easily this shield is going to start getting up into the, you know, 500, 600, 700 damage range with the Draven. So that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous damage output. And most people don't understand that. They just think, oh, it's just a wimpy little shield. Who cares? It's just Janna. She just sits in bushes and shields people. Well, a really good Janna, you're going to care because she's going to murder you. And then her ultimate, of course, it knocks everybody back. Everyone knows that. That's powerful. But did you know just how much it heals? You know, it's 450 healing with a 150% AP ratio at level 11. Now, don't forget all of that scales with Wind Speakers, Redemption, Mikhail's, all of that scales. That's 450 heal. Everyone thinks Soraka heals a lot. Soraka's level 11 heal is 250. 250. Now, if people are low, if they're lower than 50%, then that jumps up to 375 over time. That's still not as much as Janna. Janna heals for 450 at level 11. No stipulations. 450. Soraka only heals for 375 with her ultimate. Now, they have to stand in this, and it has to be channeled, so that's a stipulation, I suppose. But it also knocks people back and protects them. So it has additional utility by knocking people back, and it heals more than Soraka. A lot more than Soraka. Like, a whole lot more than Soraka. So 375, it's an additional 75. So you do 75 divided by 375. It heals an extra 20% more than Soraka. So this is why Janna is so strong. This is why she's #1 if you learn how to play her correctly in solo queue. She can do risky crap. She can run around. She's excellent at the Clown Fiesta. She gives everyone a ton of movement speed. She has a ton of movement speed. She does an absolute truckload of damage with her shield that never shows up on any stats anywhere. It just makes her AD carry look like a god when they do a ton of damage and pentakill everyone. And her ultimate heals for 20% more than a Soraka and has additional utility to it. Like... she's insanely powerful in solo queue. So you might be saying, well, why don't they play her in the LCS? Because she doesn't have great wave clear. Her laning phase, you know, isn't the strongest. And she doesn't have initiation. So what most pro teams look for in a support is either initiation or wave clear, typically both. So she gets replaced by Karma in pro play a lot because they really want very aggressive early game and they want the initiation of the Karma mantra to eat. That's it. Okay? So she's not as good in pro play, but she is excellent because people aren't doing stupid stuff in pro play, right? So you don't have to go around and constantly put out all of these fires. It's not a Clown Fiesta in pro play. That's why they don't play her as much. But she is very, very good. She's the princess of the Clown Fiesta, and that's why she's the queen of solo queue. So that's why she's at the top of my tier list. I had her a little bit lower. I had Lulu up there instead. It is Janna. After playing so many games, Janna is just far better than Lulu in solo queue. I mean, Lulu starts to get way better once you get to like mid diamond plus. Lulu is still good. She's still in my S class, but you know, she just can't touch Janna, I don't think. At least not with most compositions. Now, in some places, like maybe with Kog'Maw, maybe with Twitch, you could think about it. But These numbers are just tremendous. And she scales so well with the best items, plus healing in particular, because she has 2 abilities that have really high bases that scale. So this is insanely high base, as we just talked about. So the scaling on Monsoon is crazy with plus healing. You know, late game, you'll heal people from like 10% to full with her ultimate. And then her shield is one of the highest. It is actually the highest base shield in the game, I think, at this point. One of them, because Karma's is 190. Now Lulu's just got nerfed to 210, I believe. Rakan's is like 150. So yeah, it's the highest shield in the game, I believe. Of mainstream, like, utility supports is very high. So with these really high bases and 2 abilities that scale off of plus healing and shielding, that makes her really good. So anyways, yeah. Amazing. Learn Janna. She will take you far. Okay, let's talk about Lulu here really quickly. So Lulu is still best in show for a lot of people. Some people would say that she's over Janna. I just made the case for Janna. You can agree or disagree, but everyone will agree that Lulu is really top end. So why is that? If you don't really know like what's up with Lulu, if you haven't played against Lulu, she has very, very powerful early game damage and wave clear. So she procs Thunderlords very easily, so you should get Thunderlords. I have tried out Wind Speakers, and just at the end of the day, the only ability that gets modified by Wind Speakers is her E. Her ultimate doesn't, and the fact that the E just got nerfed, you know, that really makes... They're really trying to tell you to go Thunderlords. So if you just E, put picks on them, auto attack Q, boom, there's the Thunderlords. And it's really cheap harass, so it's only 50, 55, 60, and you get up to 170 damage. That can hit multiple targets, including minions. It slows people by 80%. It does decay, but it's a really nice slow. And it only does partial damage to waves now, so that mid Lulu is not overpowered, but it's pretty good wave clear. It's got some nice range on it. 925, and it's spammable on a 7-second cooldown. So really nice wave clear. You'll get 3 points in Q in lane. This actually adds up too. Like, you don't want to underestimate this too much. Right, so at level 5 even, each auto attack from a person you have picks on is 40 extra on-hit damage. At level 11, it's 75 on-hit damage. So that's not quite as good as a Janna AD shield if the person's going crit. If they're going Blade the Ruined King, it's probably better. But if the person's going crit, because the AD on Janna's shield applies to the crit also, as I just talked about with Draven, this doesn't interact with crit. But... it is still very, very respectable damage. I mean, 75 damage at level 11 in the mid-game is really, really nice on hit damage. So this this bonus, is really good. So you'll go 3 points in Q, and then you'll get 1 point in E. So you're not really going to be using this for a shield anymore. So she's going to be much more of an offensive support, which is some minor defensive capabilities in terms of shielding, primarily just from her ult. But it's this polymorph that makes her so strong. A 2.25 second... basically stun. They can still wiggle around some, but it just locks them out. So this is excellent against assassins. This will shut down Ahri, Kassadin, anything else that's coming at you. Be careful with Master Yi, because Master Yi can alpha strike this. It is an actual projectile. So Yasuo's Wind Wall will stop it. Braum's shield will block it. Yasuo can alpha strike and get out of it. People can Zhonya's and block it. So just be aware of that. It can be blocked because it is a projectile, and it does have a slight cast animation and speed. It moves really quickly. It doesn't tell you the move speed, but it's quickly, but it's not instant, and it does have a cast animation. So just be aware of that. You have to wait until Master Yi alpha strikes and then do it, because a good Master Yi will wait, and he will alpha strike as soon as you start casting this. All right, so this is the thing that really makes Lulu. You have this polymorph, but then you can also put it on your AD carry and give them an extra crazy amount of move speed, 30% move speed for up to 4 seconds and 45% attack speed. So really, really nice buff on the AD carries. So great wave clear, great early aggression, excellent answer to assassins, and her ultimate is also another excellent answer to assassins. It knocks up people for 1 second. A lot of people forget about that, or 0.75 seconds. This is great for setting up Yasuo ults. It's great for knocking people out of different holds. So for instance, if like Warwick is on somebody, you can ult him, knock him out. You can knock people out of like a Malzahar channel. You can knock people out of a Katarina ult. You could knock Yasuo out of his thing if he has somebody in the sky. It'll still do the damage, but they'll break out of it sooner. So it's very handy. The E also grants true vision, so you can spot Twitch with this. You can spot Shaco with this. You can spot Vayne with this if you put it on them. So you can get around a lot of those really annoying invisible champions that can't be spotted by control wards anymore. Pink wards, as they used to be called. So she just has a lot of utility. She's very strong. She's like the early game aggression version of Janna, with less shielding, less peeling over time, less healing. But so basically she's more like, kind of like a utility version of a black mage, whereas Janna would be more like a peeling white mage kind of person to an extent. So she's very, very strong though. Still top of the class. Very good. The nerf to her shield does hurt. But realistically, a lot of people were building her anyways, where they were getting 3 points of Q in lane, and then switching to Whimsy from level 7 to 10, and then they would only max the help picks starting at level 12. So they'd start to max it almost last. But anyways, very, very strong champion. Browser's lagging a little bit here. I'm uploading the file that I just mentioned a second ago. Browser, hello? Am I locked out of browsers here? Is it still recording? It is still recording. Okay. I didn't think my Gmail was open. Okay, let me just close all of this. God bless. Come on, guys. Okay, stay. Yeah, actually, I don't want to close out of that because I am uploading right now. Oh, it's processing. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we got in there. Sorry about the delay. I don't know what's going on. Someone was having a hard time with those scripts there. It must have been something on one of these sites. Okay, so both of those are very good. Hopefully it won't lock us out again here in a second. But yeah, those are the top tier. I don't think anyone else really touches them. Like, you can first pick those into anything and be fine. I think that Janna has better matchups. Like, Lulu can have a hard time against Zyra. She can have a hard time against Karma to some extent. She can have a hard time against something like Leona in lane. Thresh can be pretty good against Lulu, but Janna really doesn't have a lot of problems. Like, Soraka and Sona are both pretty good into Janna, but Janna can still make it through the laning phase just fine. Especially because she gets Eye of the Oasis, she's going to get a little bit of that extra health regen that they just put on there. And yeah, she's got enough shield to block a lot of damage, so Janna can make it through just fine. You just get a couple of fairy charms, just have some good reaction with your shields, you can block most her ass. So that's pretty good. Okay, so tier 2. So these are going to be champions that are very strong, but you can't necessarily first pick them, or I wouldn't recommend first pick with no information about the enemy team, good into everything. That's just Lulu and Janna, but these are very good in a variety of situations. So Soraka's the first one. I thought Soraka was going to be the best in 7.9 because I thought everyone was going to be playing tanks. Well, it turns out most people don't play tanks. Everyone's still playing their assassins. Everyone's still playing fighters. The only tanks that get picked up consistently are Sejuani, and that's about it, honestly. Gragas does get picked up some, but people really aren't playing him that much in my experience. Zac does get picked up some, but people aren't playing him that much. I mean, Malphite got picked in this game that I saw, but he went full AP Malphite. This is Platinum, too. Like, this is pretty, you know, fairly high-level stuff compared to the general population. No tanks here other than Blitzcrank. This game, they had a Leona and a Warwick. Okay, so this one did have tanks. That's why I picked Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench is also good against tanks. Like, Soraka is good, like, if you have tanks on your team, and she's good if they don't have engage. But if they have engaged tanks, that can be a problem. Yeah, a lot of teams just won't run nearly as many tanks. Now, this one I did run. Oh, that was a donation game for Soraka middle. But yeah, like this has no. All they have is Alistar bottom as a tank. This team has no tanks other than Lee Sin. This team has no tanks other than Lee Sin and maybe Blitzcrank, sort of, kind of. So yeah, nobody's running tanks. This one had a Gragas. But yeah, tanks just aren't nearly as popular as I thought they were going to be. So that makes Soraka a little bit more suspect. She's very, very good, but she can still have a problem if people run her down and against other AP supports if they burst her out. So like Fiddlesticks and Zyra can be pretty good against her. Champions like Leona can be very good. There's a lot of things that can do well against Soraka, but Soraka is still quite strong. I have a Soraka guide if you want to know more about her. Her Q, her ass in lane is basically free. It's super cheap. She has really high base mana regen. So you just get a Fairy Charm or two early on. You're just going to absolutely just be able to spam this ability. So very nice in the laning phase. Pretty good push. Does full damage to minions. 230, pretty respectable. So if you get 2 points in lane, 110 damage, just spam this on the back line. Allows you to push in a tower. Really nice and neat. So that's good. It's really hard for enemies to engage on you if they're pushed in a tower. Keep that in mind. So that Leona can't really, like, if she's being smart, she can't engage into you if you have, like, 10 minions stacked up and they only have, like, 2 on their side, or she's going to die. So it makes it really difficult to engage on you. So you just keep pushing in a tower, get, like, 2 points of this in lane, then start maxing out your heal for the team fights. Equinox just 1 point till the very end of the game. And then Wish, of course, you max that out. So really good. I mean, she's good into Lulu and she's good into Soraka. She just has a hard time with engaged champions and assassins still for the most part. You can get Warmogs now, as I recommend, as potentially a like maybe a fourth or a fifth item. Like once you get to around level 13, so you would buy something like Redemption, Mikhail's, and then Warmogs after that, and then you'll reach that threshold. And then she becomes very powerful. Now, most games are over before that happens, but if you get to the Warmogs, it's really good. No one will be able to assassinate you anymore. And if you just step out of combat for 5 seconds, you'll be basically full healed in like 3 seconds. So it's really nice, especially because you don't really, like, if you're trying to heal, you can, or if you're trying to step out of combat with Warmogs, if you just heal people, then you're counted as out of combat because you haven't hit anybody and you haven't been hit. So, you know, if you were throwing Qs before, you get a little injured, you can just step to the back line, heal some people. If they don't touch you again, you'll start healing, and before you know it, you'll be full health. So, she's still quite powerful. I think she's at the top of the list. She might deserve to be in the S class, but I still think she's just too risky to pick first pick. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. So, she's just a minor step down from the top, but she's still really good. Tahm Kench is another person. How are we looking on time here? Okay, we're doing fine. I want to talk about the top ones just a little bit if you're new to the channel and you haven't heard me explain why some of these champions are as good as they are for just a little bit. And then we'll pick up the pace as we move down the list a little bit. Tahm Kench is very good on this patch. He's steadily been climbing. It's entirely possible he could be at the top of the S class. Like, there are some matchups where, you know, sometimes I just might feel comfortable. Like, if I just knew 1 or 2 picks that they had, I would feel comfortable with Tahm Kench. Like, if somebody first picks Thresh or something, and I don't know anything else about the enemy team, or a Leona, I would almost, like, just want to go Tahm Kench. He's that good. So he's not, like, a perfect, like, blind pick. You don't know anything about their team. But if you know they have, like, an engaged tank, or if they have something like an Ashe, or they have something like a Thresh or a Leona, something that he really hard counters, I would almost consider picking him up. He has a hard time against assassins, so to like repeat damage assassins, so ones that have like persistent damage, your Aries, your Kassadins, your Kha'Zixes, things like that. He is very good at your all-in burst assassins though, so he's good against things like Lux. He's good against. Come on, Sadie. Come on, you coming over? Come on. Look, are you coming over or what? Come on. She'll try to like crawl over the back of my chair and she'll like fall over because her balance is not that good and her leg strength is pretty weak at this point. She's a little bit older. All right, Sadie. But she likes to come hang out. Okay, so let's talk about the Kench here really quickly. He's a personal favorite of mine. He's probably my favorite design champion in the game. I really like him. I like Janna too a lot, but I really like the Kench. So what's up with Kench? Why is this guy such a baller right now? He's excellent against tanks, like I said, and he's excellent against hard engaged teams. You actually see him in the LCS some. Occasionally. Usually he's a counter pick to Ashe. But he does have some other functions as well. He's quite good. Because Ashe is very popular in the pro scene. And so he's a good answer specifically to Ashe. A lot of the Koreans will pick him for that purpose. Okay. Wow, they don't give him that much difficulty rating. I think he's quite hard to play correctly because of his decision making. Like, his mechanics aren't hard, but his decisions are pretty tricky. Okay, so what's up with him? Well, all of his hits, he does maximum health, so he does percentage of his health. So you stack a lot of health, you get up to 4.5%. It's not uncommon to get to 3,000 health with this guy, so you're talking an extra 135 damage on hit with him. You know, by the time you get to level 11, and you're naturally going to be hitting for 84. So yeah, that's pretty big. 4.5%. What did I say? 135 plus like 85. It's like 210 per hit, so it's pretty good. And you stack up fish. And then once you get 3 fish, you can do different things. So if you hit someone with a tongue lash when they have 3 fish on them, it stuns them for 1.5 seconds, which is a big deal. Or you can devour people that have 3 fish on them as well. And if you devour them and spit them out, you can hold them in your mouth for quite a while, depending on the level. So you can hold them in your mouth for up to 3 seconds. So if there's this really annoying tank that's trying to dive your AD carry, and you're trying to just tie them up for a little bit, just so that your AD carry has time to breathe, and just sort of reset, reposition, maybe kill someone else who's trying to dive them, or kill another squishy person, you can hold them in your mouth for up to 3 seconds. So you can really, really tie them up. And as soon as you spit them out again, it's such a low cooldown on the tongue lash, you just tongue lash them again, you know, slow them by 70% for 2 seconds. It's not decaying. 70% for the entire 2 seconds. Auto attack, and then as soon as Devour comes off cooldown, you can Devour them again, or you can stun them for 1.5 seconds again, and then Devour them for another 3 seconds. Like, you can just tie them up just almost indefinitely with Tahm Kench. It's so hard to get past this guy as a tank. And he does really good damage. I mean, when you Devour them and spit them out, it's 32% of their maximum health. You know, that's, if it's like a tank that has 3,000 health, that's going to be almost 1,000 magic damage pre-mitigation. So it's a lot of damage that you do with Tahm Kench to tank. So he's excellent at breaking tanks. Devour, also you can eat your allies, as most people know. So this is basically like a free Quicksilver Sash on somebody. So they get hit by Ash Arrow, eat them. They get hit by a Thresh Hook, eat them. Leona Engage, eat them. You can eat people out of anything. Malzahar Ultimate, eat them. Zed ultimate, eat them. Now you have to eat them while the Zed, before the Zed actually puts the mark on them. So there are some things that require some intricate timing. But you can basically get people out of almost anything. So that's why he's so great against champions that rely very heavily on their crowd control. So things like Morgana, Leona, Thresh, Vi. You can eat people out of a Vi ult. You can eat people out of a Nautilus ult. All kinds of things that are designed to be like hard engaged CC. You can actually eat people and save them. So that's one thing that makes him very good at the Clown Fiesta also, is if there's just that one guy who's always out of position, who's always getting hit by those hooks, you can save him. So that makes him really powerful in that respect. Great harassment in lane. It's only 50 mana. You can spam this. Does very respectful damage. 180 at level 3. Has that great slow. It's excellent if you have an ally who needs to hit skill shots, like a Jhin who wants to hit his W. You just tongue lash him. Jhin hits him with the W. Walk up, auto, devour, spit him out at Jin's feet. They're dead. So Jhin and Tahm Kench are an excellent combo, even though Jin's a little bit more of a rare pick now. You started to see some more Jhin like coming back because people are building crit again. But in general, he's just a really, really good pick against tanks. Now, he goes well with most things. However, he's particularly good with AD carries who are low mobility. So things like pretty good with Twitch, good with Jinx, good with Jhin. So there's a couple of different champions that he's pretty good with. And then also, you know, he heals back a large percentage of damage dealt. So he ends up healing back at least 25% of the damage dealt to him. To an extent, so it's pretty good. Now 70% is going to go into gray health, and then he heals 25% of that, so it's not exactly 25%, it's probably closer to 20%, but overall, very nice healing, very resistant to poke. And then finally, his Abyssal Voyage. This is basically a Twisted Fate ultimate for 2. on a much lower cooldown. So it's only 120-second cooldown. You can work behind people with your jungler and get kills. I mean, especially in Bronze and Silver, if you duo with a jungler, or you can talk your jungler into doing this, this is all day kills. Just team up. I'll guarantee you, if you're Bronze right now, team up, find a Master Yi player or a Kha'Zix, or just something that's really snowbally. Get into voice comms with them, and as soon as you hit 6, just keep ulting bottom and just kill them over and over and over again. They will keep falling for it. It is free low. I will guarantee you it's free low. After the 3rd time you do it, if that doesn't put you far enough ahead to just flat out win the game, their team's just going to rage out. Bot lane's just going to done, probably. So it's very, very powerful. Even at higher levels of play, people just do not expect the Tahm Kench to come out of nowhere and ult people. So this has a lot of utility. Just watch my guide if you want to know more about it. I think I have a Tahm Kench guide, right? Surely. Yeah, I have to have a Tahm Kench guide. And then I have a huge Tahm Kench playlist, and I play him on stream pretty often too. Yeah, I definitely have a full guide for him. So just check that out if you want to know. But he's very powerful. I think he's the best tank right now because he's really good at the Fiesta, and he just has a lot of utility other champions don't have. Okay, Karma, and I'll pick it up just a little bit here. Karma, I think, is extremely strong right now. I have a Karma guide as well. The deal with her is she has excellent early game pressure. Her W is just kind of a point click, and if you stay close to him, it's going to be a root. So it's really hard to dodge. She speeds people up, and her mantra E just does massive shielding against AoE damage. So if the enemy team has like a Ziggs or a Rumble or a Gangplank or just something that's going to be doing massive area of effect damage, then Karma can be excellent. Now, thing to keep in mind about Karma, though, she does not have like point click hard CC. So you need to be very careful picking her into things like Master Yi, things like Katarina, Ahri, Kassadin. You just don't have a way to catch them. They're going to get away. Your root is not enough. So you just don't have enough crowd control to deal with them typically. So that can be really rough if you're trying to deal with a hyper carry. So you can shield them and block some damage, which is nice, but your Q falls off later. It really doesn't do a whole lot because you're not building AP. It's just you're just gonna spam it on people, put a small slow on them, and that's gonna be it. Your shield is okay if it's mantra'd, but it's very low if it's not mantra'd. So you're not gonna be shielding for nearly as much as Janna over time. You don't have any extra scaling with plus healing. All you have is your shield, which is just single target, unless you mantra it. So she doesn't scale nearly as well with plus healing as some of the other top ones, like Janna and Soraka in particular, who scale much better with plus healing. So this is nice for laning phase. It's okay later on in the game, but it just really doesn't have a ton of utility to it. It's okay. A 25% slow for 1.5 seconds is okay. And then, yeah, this is okay. It's delayed. The 2-second delay. And then it has a root, which is not a stun. It's just a root. They can hit people back, so the 80 carry that you root, I'm pretty sure can still auto attack. And then this is okay, like it does speed people up, which is good. The mantra is extremely powerful. You get a nice big shield. But it's going to be on a pretty long cooldown. At least probably 15 seconds in a lot of fights. And its base value only has 50% AP scaling, and it only has a 190 base instead of Janna's 240 base with a 70% scaling. So once again, if it's mantra'd, it's great. If it's not mantra'd, it's not great. So basically, she's good in a team comp where you just need to shield everybody and just run in and massacre them. But in long, sustained team fights where you're going to need crowd control and extra peel for your 80 carry, she can potentially have some problems. So I think that's what makes her really good in like high diamond, challenger, and pro level play, because it's organized and they're going to make the most out of her initiation tools. But in solo queue, she's just not as good at the Clown Fiesta, typically, as someone like a Janna or a Lulu. Okay, but she's still really good. So I have moved her up. I've gained a lot of respect. I've tried to play her more. I haven't had a lot of statistical success, but I can definitely see her power. Blitzcrank is another one who's really powerful. You know, a lot of people will have him. Oh, thank you, friend. A lot of people will have him in their S-class tier list. I don't, for the simple fact that he just doesn't scale very well. Like, it's basically hook or nothing. Basically. You hit your hook, You might make a kill on somebody if you hook someone who's not a tank. If you hook someone who doesn't have a Banshee's Veil. Remember, a lot of the AP champions will get Banshee's Veil, especially Zyra and Fiddlesticks, we'll talk about here in a second. So, you know, it's problematic. And people can... let me see how Blitzcrank is phrased. I believe people can Quicksilver Sash out of a Blitzcrank hook. Because it's not airborne, I don't think. It's stun. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you can Quicksilver Sash out of a Blitzcrank hook. I've seen people do that. So if your ally AD carry gets a Quicksilver Sash, they can Quicksilver Sash out of it immediately and walk out before they get hooked. You can also McHale's it if you're fast enough. McHale's, I believe, is instant now. They changed it where it doesn't have a travel speed, I believe. Let me see. Double check this. I believe they changed it a while back. It's a pretty short range on it. It's only within like 500 or 750 range, so it's got some decent range on it. Okay, and it speeds them up for 2 seconds. So if you're fast enough, if someone hooks with a Blitz and you're like a Janna and you have McHale's, as soon as they get hit, if you McHale's them immediately, if you're watching for it and you just hit them immediately with it, you can cleanse them out of the hook and then they can run away. So it does have counterplay, especially at higher levels of play, if you do it. I believe you can QSS a Blitz hook too. Now that's from back in the day. Yeah, it says that it does from 2012. Now I don't want to watch one of these. Now, I don't know if you have to flash or dash out of it too. Let me see this one. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like someone would still, if you McHale's them, they would still have to flash or dash out of it. So it doesn't stop the pull. Okay, so it's not quite as hard countered as QSS and McHale's. It requires that extra step of flashing or dashing out of it. But that's really high level play. That probably won't happen as much. But anyways, he's all in on the hook. If you don't land your hooks, you don't have anything. It's very powerful. The Power Fist is a nice crowd control to knock up for 1 second on a low cooldown. So he does have a little bit of peel. He has quite a bit of damage. He's very fast. He's an excellent roamer. So he could be in the S class. But I think especially with the prominence of Banshee's Veil and more mid laners are going to be getting Banshees. They're going to be rushing it. It's just going to be a lot harder, and a lot of these AP squishy supports that you would normally want to hit, like a Fiddlesticks and a Zyra, they're going to be rushing Banshee's Veil. So, you know, it's okay. He's still good, but I think that, for me, he's just a little bit of a step down from Janna and Lulu, but it's debatable. You could have him up in tier 1. If you're a really good Blitz player, he could definitely be in tier 1. Okay, Fiddlesticks. This is another one that I want to talk about just for a little bit because he's a rising star. I did have him in my tier 2 like 2 patches ago, and then I moved him down to tier 3, I think, last patch, or maybe the patch before. But with the introduction of both Banshee's Veil and Eye of the Watchers, I think that he's an up-and-comer. A lot of people don't realize this yet. Some European supports have been playing him in big tournaments even before the Banshees and the Banshees change and the Eye of the Watchers change. So he was already gaining some traction in Europe. But why is this? What's good about Fiddlesticks? Right here. 2.25 seconds fear. Really, really, really strong. Now, it's only got 575 range. They did buff this. It used to be 525. So that was a notable change to him a couple of patches ago. Was that in 7.9 they buffed that? Surely not. I don't remember. But anyways, they did give him a little bit more range on his ult, or on his Q, which is a big deal. If he stands still, he does get this bonus movement speed that lasts for 1.5 seconds. But it's really, like I said, it's the fact that you basically get 50% movement speed for 3 seconds whenever you get Eye of the Watchers. I'll show you Eye of the Watchers here really quickly. Okay. So if you read this, the Queen's Tribute. 50% movement speed for 1 second. Additional stacks extend the duration. This can occur up to 3 times every 30 seconds. Cannot more than every 1.25 seconds. Okay. Wait, how do extra stacks extend it if you can't stack it extra? Because it can't trigger more than once every 1.25 seconds. I'm not sure how that's worded, but basically, you can get this for almost effectively 3 seconds straight. It will get you into their team, and it's basically like having a little mini ghost, because you're going to have those 3 stacks whenever you engage, typically. So that really helps you position that ultimate. If they move or you're just a little bit out of position, you can get back in there. You don't always have to have flash anymore. You can just run in there because of his passive, which also, I guess that doesn't stack with this anymore. But either way, he's fast, okay? And it helps him escape, and the Banshees helps him stay safer as a second item after Zhonya's. So that makes him particularly powerful. And then his Drain is okay. This allows you to face tank dragons early and tank other kinds of things that might get in your way. It does pretty decent damage if people stand there and just let you channel it on them. You know, basically for 5 seconds, it's 400 damage at level 1. 5 times 80. If they sit there the entire 5, that's a lot of damage. It's 900 damage with a 225% AP ratio if they sit in it and you max this out. So that's a lot of damage. And you're healing for 80% of that. So you're healing for like 700 damage. So that's a lot of damage. So if someone gets crowd controlled or you fear them for 2.5, they're going to be sitting in it for 2.5 if you fear them. So if you fear somebody and walk up and just channel this on them for 2.5, that's 400 extra damage. So yeah, he's got quite a bit of damage, and it goes down to like a 3-second cooldown. So that's really, really powerful. This Dark Wind is okay. The way that you use this early on is you just throw this on waves, enhanced damage per bounce, and so it's going to do somewhere close to 100 damage even at level 1 per bounce, and I think it hits 5 things. So you'll hit 5 minions a lot of times for 100 damage each. So it pushes waves very quickly. So all you do is you just spam this as soon as a wave walks up. Just hit the wave, or you can hit an enemy champion with it for a little bit of damage, and then it's going to bounce onto the wave. And it might take a couple of CS from your AD carry, but it'll just push it right into the tower every time. So you just try not to have a laning phase. You just push it with Dark Wind. You can get a second point of Dark Wind if you want. Sorry, the cat hair's like, it's all enveloping me now that I've had her in here. It's really, really good push. So what you want to do is just push, push, push with Dark Wind, get 3 points in your Q in the laning phase, 1 point in Drain, and then by the time you ult, you know, it'll just do an absolute insane amount of damage, up to 625 at level 1. So you just ult into somebody, fear, and then just follow them with your, well, you won't have the ghosting ability by then, but trust me, it'll just light people up. So he does a ton of damage. He's excellent against assassins with his fear. He can tank things like Dragon and Baron to a lesser extent later on in the game, at least for a few seconds if you have to. And they just can't sit there and fight you through that drain a lot of the times in traffic. So really, really nice. So you're primarily picking him for his engage capabilities once you get his Zhonya's Hourglass, and his ability to crowd control a key assassin for a very long time. So he's a very, very good pocket pick into assassins, particularly if Lulu is banned, which she often is. Because Lulu can do a similar thing. She can crowd control him for 2.25 seconds as well, but she typically will, you know, people will perceive her to have a bit more utility than Fiddle. But if she's banned, Fiddle could be a great option. Okay. Who else is on the docket here? So we got Fiddle and then Zyra. So this has been kind of a Zyra revival of sorts. I have been playing Zyra. I haven't been winning with her as much as I did in the past, but I've been doing So I haven't been winning as much with her as I did back in January and February, but I've been winning more than I was in March and April, if that makes sense. So I think that the recent changes, particularly to Eye of the Watchers and to Banshee's Veil, also make her very safe. Now she actually has a better escape, and she's protected from hooks and things like that with Banshee's Veil. So I have a whole video about Zyra. It's one of the most popular videos on the channel. She's one of the most popular supports on the channel. Very good, excellent poke with her Q and her plants. Excellent crowd control if you hit your roots. She's excellent at jumping out of bushes and just completely 100-0ing people. And the Strangle Thorns obviously has massive area of effect damage that it can do to a ton of people. So massive damage. The thing that's been holding her back recently is the fact that she's very unsafe in a meta that had been shifting towards assassins. Well, now that she's a little bit safer with Banshees and Eye of the Watchers, I think that she's a lot more powerful. Very lane dominant. So she's excellent against things like Sona, even Soraka. If you catch that Soraka, you can blow her up at level 6 if you ignite her. So she can be quite a powerful champion. I think that she deserves to move up the charts a little bit more. Nami, pretty good. It's easy to forget about Nami. I'm going to have to move along a bit faster here. Yeah, we're getting closer to an hour and a half. Nami's okay. You know, she's got the wave early on. She's got excellent harass. I think that the Spell Thief's line helps her be a bit safer in the mid game as well. She gets that ghost. She gets to escape. So she's got great healing. Very few people can trade with her in lane. She's excellent against Lulu. She's excellent against Karma because she negates their early game. But she'll probably get outscaled by them. She only has 1 healing ability, so she doesn't scale as well with plus healing. However, if you land her bubbles, those are on point. You can hit multiple people with the bubbles. It's a very long crowd control. I think it's like a second and a half. I guess it's not very long, but it's pretty long for 1 point. Yeah, second and a half. And then she can speed people up too. And she helps people chase other people down. So she's really good with like a Twitch or a Vayne. People that want to just open up and hunt people down. That slow can be very helpful. Add some nice extra on-hit damage. And then the ebb and flow just helps you completely dominate the lane. No one's going to be able to out-trade you. She has a problem with Soraka because Soraka can out-heal her. But she can go toe-to-toe with Sona, and she can go toe-to-toe with Lulu and Karma in lane. And Janna. So she's very good against a lot of the other utility supports, at least levels 1 to 5. Later on, she can potentially get outscaled, but she does have a nice stun with her Aqua Prison, which is very good. And then her Tidal Wave can also knock people up and serve as a stun of sorts as well. It's really easy to dodge, but it has a pretty large area and pretty powerful effect, and it's on a low cooldown. So overall, I think she's pretty good. I don't win nearly as much with her as I do with someone like a Janna, but she does have a time and a place. She's really good if you need a babysitter, like you need a healer, but you also want a little bit of aggression and crowd control later on. So you want someone who's a bit more aggressive than like a Soraka, perhaps. You need a bit more like hard crowd control. So you can pair her with something like a Vayne or a Twitch, probably the 2 best ones. If you need a healer in lane and if you need some crowd control. So you need to try to stop that Katarina from channeling her ult. You're not going to be able to hit Kassadin or Ahri if they're competent with a bubble or a wave, most likely. But good follow-up. So if your team has something like a Sejuani, an Ashe ult, a Mumu ult, something like that, a Vi, then it's really nice to be able to throw that bubble and layer it and put it on top of other crowd controls. So she's really good if your team already has some crowd control and you can follow up with it, and if you need a healer. So there's some decent situations for her, but I think in general, Soraka, Lulu, and Janna are probably better picks most of the time, and probably Karma too, but Nami is very good with specific niche champions. Okay, if you haven't heard about the Maokai support, that actually was getting pretty powerful near the end of last patch. They did nerf it this patch, but I think it's still pretty strong. So where's old Maokai here? Yeah. So what you would do is you would just max E in lane. It does massive percentage damage. So it does 16% of the target's maximum health per seed, and they can stack. So if 3 saplings hit people, that's 48% of their max health. Massive. So they just nerfed it a little bit about the mana cost. I talked about this in my last video, so I won't go into it too much more. But I think he's still very viable. I think now, you know, you can still get your Rylai's, maybe Void Staff, but you might have to stop it, or not Rylai's, Leandri's, Void Staff. you might have to stop at Liandry's and then get some mana regen, so you might have to get something like a Redemption in there somewhere. So I imagine his new build might be something like, you might have to get that Redemption early, actually. So you could go like either Watchers or Eye of the Equinox, depending on how tanky you think you need to be. And then Redemption, Liandry's, like Knight's Vow or something like that. So that way you're still pretty tanky. You get the nice extra damage off of Liandry's because these also apply a slow. So that would tack on an extra, like, I think Liandry's is 6% of max health. If it's, might be 4% of max health. I can't remember. Let me see really quickly. Okay, 4% max health. So that tops it off, or that's of current health. Anyways, really powerful ability with things that have a slow and do percentage-based damage. So that stacks really nicely. So I would still say go with the Liandry's early on. You could maybe go Void Staff if you don't need to be as tanky after that, but Knight's Vow would also on the table. So I think you'll see him in some form or other. I think he'll be a hybrid AP damage tank. He doesn't have great wave clear. Like, you can throw this in the middle of minions, but the wave clear is going to be garbage now because they hurt the base damage. He's okay. I think he's decidedly tier 2. He can be quite powerful, but I think they're going to be better options most of the time. But he's all right. Okay, then we'll just real quickly talk about the rest, and then we'll go ahead and end the video. So I think Thresh can be really good. He has a very high win percentage, as we saw earlier. I don't remember where I put that tab, but he's the highest win percentage support right now, but he's extremely difficult to play, and he has itemization problems because he wants to be tanky, but he can't. Like, he can get Eye of the Equinox, but it still is awkward to try to last hit with that outside of the laning phase because you don't get to execute because you're considered ranged. He can't really get Knight's Vow and use that effectively. So he's just kind of stuck. Like, he can get Redemption and lock it, and that's powerful. But he doesn't benefit from plus healing, so... And he doesn't have a lot of shields and heals outside of his Lantern. So he doesn't get a lot of benefit from Mikhail's or Ardent Censer. You know, it's a really anemic if you have to buy Knight's Vow. So he just doesn't have a lot of good stuff to buy after that. I mean, you could get, like, Banner of Command. Maybe like Frozen Heart or something. But there just aren't a lot of good items to buy with him. I mean, what are people buying with him? It's just Redemption Locket, obviously. And they're just ending the game. Yeah, some combination of Redemption Locket and either Ruby Sightstone or... I guess you could get Face of the Mountain and then Ruby Sightstone. Okay. So I guess you could go with that build, and that would give you an extra item slot that's, like, useful and not awful, since you can't get Knight's Vow. I usually don't like getting Face of the Mountain. I'd rather get Knight's Vow, but it could make sense with Thresh to do that. Okay, so I guess you would just go, like, Redemption, Locket, Face of the Mountain, Ruby Sightstone, and then the games are probably over by then. Some people will get Knight's Vow anyways. Pretty anemic. I guess you could use Gargoyle if you want to go in and initiate fights. That could be good, or Frozen Heart. So yeah, okay, I guess he's got some decent options. So if you can hit hooks consistently, you know, I think that he can be particularly powerful. So he's down there, but there's a lot of ifs. You got to hit the hooks. You have to be able to use your flays correctly. If you can't stop someone like a Lee Sin from going in with their Q with your flay, don't play Thresh. He's just not going to be good enough. If you do that. Like, Thresh is the kind of champion where if you're good with him, he's really good, but if you're just kind of average with him, he's really bad. Like, there's not much middle ground with Thresh. So you need to be able to use those flays correctly to knock Leona out of her engage, to knock Thresh out, or to knock Lee Sin out, to knock Zac out of his engages. You just have to be able to do a lot of stuff with Flay. So if you want to play him, I would say practice him a lot in normals and flex queue before you take him into solo queue. So he can be quite powerful, but he can also be a total turkey if you miss all of your hooks and you don't get your flays correct. So everyone knows Thresh, he's powerful. Nautilus, I put him down here a little bit more. I think engage, like hard engage tank supports are okay, but not really in a super great spot. I just haven't been able to win with him this season, honestly. I've only got a 43% win rate, whereas last season I think I had like a 57% win rate with him. So it's just a lot tougher. Tanks and tank itemization is pretty bad. You can get Knight's Vow into Equinox. That does help this this patch, but if you still go Redemption and lock it, then he's a bit squishier. I don't know. He's okay. I would just honestly prefer, like, probably right now a Blitzcrank. Just so, because you don't have to go in. So it doesn't matter if you're squishier. If you want to go Redemption lock it with Blitzcrank, you're pulling people out of position rather than jumping into them. I mean, maybe he's better if you go Gargoyle Plate on Nautilus, but I think if you want a tank, I think either Blitz or Tahm Kench are probably better options. Sona can be really good. She has a pretty high win rate. As I said before, she's great in Bronze and Silver. But the problem is, as you go up, people will be able to pick her off and kill her. I am going to do a Sona guide very soon, maybe today. So she can be very good in Wombo combo combinations. So if your team has a Misfortune and a Mumu, Kennen, maybe even Yasuo, Sejuani, things that are going to lock people up and you can layer your crowd control with theirs, that's very powerful. But if you don't have your ultimate, then you're just a sitting duck a lot of the time. Like, you've got, you know, you can lower their damage with your E. You can do a little bit of damage with your Q. So she's excellent in laning phases. She's probably one of the best, levels 1 to 5. But she's very squishy. If you get caught out by either AP supports or tanks, you can just get murdered. If the enemy gets Quicksilver Sash, that's going to be a big problem. So if that Master Yi gets really far ahead and you keep ulting him, trust me, he's going to get the Quicksilver Sash. And he's going to bust out of it, probably. So, she's okay, but she could have some problems. Bard, pretty good. Like, he has a problem of itemization again, because he doesn't have any heals. Like, all he has is his W, which is typically a very anemic heal. But yet, a lot of his abilities don't scale very well with ability power. Like, Magical Journey, ability power doesn't interact with that at all. His Q kind of does, but his ultimate also doesn't interact. And his heal is very anemic. So if you look at Bard, like, his base abilities are really cool. He just doesn't have scaling outside of his meeps, really. And his meeps are pretty good. His meeps are very good. They have been buffing those steadily over time. So Bard can do quite a bit of damage. It does have a 30% ratio on the meeps as well. But only 65 scaling on his Q. Very low scaling on his heal. Up to 60% if you let it charge for the full time. Over 10 seconds. Has no AP scaling on either one of these abilities. And no healing on either one of these abilities. So it just makes it really awkward. It's like, what do you build plus heal on him? You build AP on him? It's not really going to scale that well. I mean, I guess it kind of scales with his meeps, but it's a very low, like, payout. So I think if you want to go Bard, I imagine you would just go Redemption Locket. Honestly, don't know what else. I mean, I get, like, you can't really get Knight's Vow on him. I mean, I guess you could go something like Frost Queen's Claim into Redemption into Locket. Something like that just to have an extra item slot. I mean, let's see what people are doing with him. His itemization is really weird because, like I said, he doesn't scale with really anything. Like, he doesn't have steroids. For tanks, he doesn't have a lot of AP scaling. He doesn't have a lot of plus healing scaling. Okay, so, I mean, you can go Mikhail's if you want to, but you're not going to get any benefit from the plus healing. Frozen Heart's okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is just what you go. You just go Boots, Redemption, Watcher, Locket, and that's probably game at that point. Yeah. I mean, he's okay. He does good damage. He can roam pretty well, but he's very hard to play correctly. You have to be able to land that ultimate at clutch times. You need to be able to consistently stun people with Q. He can do big damage, but you really have to practice with him. I guess it's totally feasible that you could go like Leandri's Torment on him if you wanted to go more AP, because he has pretty high base damage on his meeps, and they acquire a slow, and they do AoE slow, so that could do extra burn damage off of the Leandries on a bunch of people. So, you know, you could go Leandries if you want an extra damage item on him. I don't know. He's okay. He can be very powerful in the right hands, but he's a little bit more situational than other picks. Rakan just got gutted with his shield. He has a problem with itemization as well. Like, he does scale somewhat with plus healing and shielding. He does scale with AP quite well. He has very high AP ratios, but he really, really needs to be tanky because he's extremely dangerous. You have to jump in, and you basically can't shield area of effect abilities or you're going to die. So if someone's about to get hit with a GP barrel, you can't jump in and shield that, or you're going to have to eat the barrel. Or like a Ziggs ult, or a Rumble ult. There's just all kinds of really nasty things. An Orianna ult. Katarina spinning onto people. That's the problem that I found with Rakan, is if I want to use the shield, basically I'm going to die a lot of the time if I go in, unless I'm very tanky. So you're not going to be able to get the AP. You can't have access to really good tank items, such as Knight's Vow. I mean, you can go Equinox if you want to, but it's going to make it really hard to last hit. The reason that Thresh can pull that off, if you've ever wondered, well, why can Thresh run Eye of the Equinox and just take some AD runes and be okay with it? It's because of his Flay. This is why you'll see a lot of pro players leveling up his Flay. Some people have said, why would you level Flay? It sucks. You know, because I will typically level it second. Although some pro players will level it first in lane. And the reason is it gives extra AD on attack. And people forget about that. So yeah, the cooldown doesn't go down, but it deals a lot of extra damage. So, you know, if you level this up to level 3, you can get up to 125, or no, that's the magic damage on the cast. Damage collected. Okay, so you can do up to 140 extra AD damage, or 140% of your AD, plus the souls you've collected. So 140 plus like 20, or something in the laning phase. That's really powerful. So, you know, that's more than a double hit, and that's why he can do it, because that helps you last hit, because you don't have the execute. So this is why Thresh can run things like Eye of the Equinox, is because of Flay, because he'll level up his Flay in lane at least a couple of points so that it allows him to last hit. Rakan does not have that luxury. He doesn't have anything else that's going to help him last hit. You can run AD as your reds, but it's still going to be hard to last hit. So, yeah, he's got a lot of itemization problems. He's good with Zyra, because Zyra gives that boost. He gives Zyra 20% more damage on her W, but I think especially that nerf to his shield was just brutal. It's just brutal. So I think there are probably better choices out there. I like Rakan. He's a lot of fun, but I think if they made him melee and they made it to where he could actually like reasonably run Eye of the Equinox and Knight's Vow, then I think he could potentially be a lot better. Even if they nerfed his range down to melee, just take him all the way down, I think that he could be very powerful. Well, very powerful is a strong word, but I think he could certainly be better than he is. Okay. Sorry, there's something over there. Anyways, Alistar, he's okay. Like I said earlier, I think engaged supports are having a hard time right now. If you want an engaged support, I think that Nautilus is probably one of the better ones. Blitzcrank is the best one, but Nautilus is pretty good. I'd rather see either one of those than an Alistar. Vel'Koz is okay. He has a nice, powerful channeled ult. I would only pick him as a pocket pick into Zyra, probably, if you really want to do that. He outranges her. He has better poke, and he has pretty good all-in. He has nice true damage shredding for tanks. So I think that he can be quite powerful against Zyra, but probably not anywhere else. Brand is okay. I just think that Zyra and Fiddlesticks are better versions of Brand. They both do area of effect damage, and they have more crowd control, more utility, and more predictable damage. I've talked about Brand a lot. I mean, he's okay, but like in a team fight, you just don't know who the ult's going to bounce to. If you catch someone out in the woods and they're by themselves, your ult just doesn't do any damage, basically. So, I mean, he's okay. He just doesn't have as much utility as Zyra or Fiddlesticks. I'd rather see one of them. Gragas is okay. I haven't tried him a lot of support, but he could operate once again as like a decent AP damage if you want to build him. I don't even know what you'd get with him. Maybe Leandri's Void Staff. His barrel does apply a slow. I don't know, but you have options. I'm not sure how to itemize him if you want to play him as support, but like I think the fact that he can run Knight's Vow or AP or Redemption or Locket just gives him a ton of flexibility, kind of like Maokai. But his barrel is really good for engage and initiate, so you can still stay at a safe distance and knock the AD carry back into your team, which makes it very difficult to peel. I mean, a Janna can't really do anything about that if, you know, you blow the the Kog'Maw back into your team. It's really hard for her to save that. So if you practice his ultimate, I think it's on a pretty low cooldown too. He has one of the best engage initiate. So it's kind of like a blitz hook that can go through stuff if you time it correctly. So it can go over minions, it can go over other champions and hit the exact target that you want it to hit, as long as you have really good aim and they don't like flash or dodge it, which they could do with a blitz hook also. So he heals himself a lot in lane. He does actually have some pretty decent wave clear with his barrel. You just throw it on the back line, let it charge up. And that'll be a decent way to clear the back line. I actually want to try him more support. I think he could be okay. Drunken Rage helps you be resistant. Body Slam, pretty good escape. Pretty good knock up. Good peel. And then this is his main thing. So it's got a 100-second cooldown, so it's pretty fast. And then it can knock people. It has really good range. 1,000, so it can knock the 80 carry back into your team, or knock the assassin back into your team. Or it can knock people away. So, you know, if someone's diving on your 80 carry, if Vi jumps on him or something, you can knock her away after she gets out of her ult. So, multi-purpose, very powerful. Gragas might even deserve a top slot. He might be tier 2 right now. I don't know. I'd have to practice him more. But I think that he definitely potentially could be powerful. They have buffed him a lot this year. And, you know, if they make Knight's Vow, if they just give it that 10% CDR, which I think they might do in the near future, if they make it build out of a Kindle gem, then this could make him pretty good. So right now I've just kind of got him floating around at tier 3. I think he's legit. I'm just not sure how much. I haven't played with him as much. So, you know, he might very well be tier 2. But right now I'll keep him at tier 3. Sejuani can be good. The problem with Sejuani is she has some huge mana problems. Where's old Sej here? So she's great in the jungle when you get more gold and you can kind of try to fix those mana problems. But she's very expensive in lane. She doesn't have a lot of great wave clear. You can use your Winter's Wrath as your wave clear, but it's 80 mana at level 1. Nasty, very expensive. This is very expensive if you want to try to charge through for wave clear. Permafrost, you're just not going to get a lot of stacks on people in lane, probably. So yeah, you can just get bullied out. And my cat's doing something cute on the floor. I kind of want to take the camera and show everybody, but I won't. But yeah, anyways, I mean, she's okay. She's great in the jungle, but a little too mana intensive probably for much else. But she could be viable. Zilean's okay. I've had people ask about Zilean. If you consistently land double bombs, he can be powerful, but he has no scaling with plus healing. He does scale with AP, he doesn't scale with tank items. So it's kind of awkward. I guess you'd get like a Morella Nomicon and maybe like a Death Cap or a Ludens or something on him. I'm not really sure. So he's okay. Just his scaling is a little weak, and he's alright. He does have some nice speed ups. His ultimate is nice, so he's okay. Braum is another champion who can be powerful, but if I want appealing support that can protect people, I'm just going to play Tahm Kench, most likely. So Braum is like, okay, like if you want to play Braum, I would play him against a Twitch or a Misfortune or someone else who has very dangerous projectiles that are going to get channeled. So I don't know. He's okay. But I feel like pure supports, I would definitely rather have Tahm Kench most of the time and probably Nautilus a lot of the time. Braum just doesn't have a lot of engage outside of his ultimate. I mean, you can hit people with the slow and try to get stuns on him. He's okay, but, you know, I just feel like they are probably better options most of the time. Morgana, same deal. I'd probably rather have Tahm Kench most of the time. So Morgana can get people out of sticky situations with her Black Shield. She does have a nice stun with her Q. She's a lot better in Bronze and Silver, but her W is borderline worthless, especially now that you can't proc a lot of Spell Thieves with it. Her ultimate's very close range, very delayed, crowd control. So she's okay. She just doesn't have as much utility as other supports. Leona, similar, has a lot of problems with other engaged supports. She can do quite a bit of damage. Her ultimate is nice. It bypasses a lot of stuff to put the stun exactly on who you want to stun if you aim it correctly on a very low cooldown. So Leona can be powerful, but once again, if I want to engage, I'm probably going to go Blitzcrank or Nautilus. And if I want some good peel, I'm probably going to go to Tahm Kench. So she's okay. Galio, same deal. Good at peeling. Tahm Kench is just better, I think. Galio does have good wave clear in lane if you max your Q. But I don't know. I just feel like Tahm Kench is better. Like, the mobility of Tahm Kench's ult just lets you score so many free kills. He's very, very mobile. So that's like an engage. People don't think that Tahm has engage, but you can engage. You just warp right up behind people and flank them with somebody. So he has, it's just weird. His engage is weird, but he does have some really good mobility and offensive capabilities with his ultimate. Trundle, very good against tanks, but it's okay. You know, he's a peeler. He's like a 5-second wonder with his ult. I just feel like, once again, Tahm Kench is going to be better in most situations. Trundle got nerfed a lot last year. Teemo can be okay. Decent AP support. He's got some okay poke. Has no wave clearing lane. But, you know, once you start getting Leandries, Void Staff, and Ludens, then he does a lot of damage later in the game. So, he's okay. Veigar, if you can consistently land the cages, he could be okay. Otherwise, I think he's got a lot of problems. Very squishy. Offers very little utility outside of his stun. You know, he's okay if it's just a farm off lane. Maybe you're against a Janna and you just want to farm up and your team needs some more AP damage, and for some reason you don't feel like... Janna is good in a Fiddle, so I wouldn't play Fiddle into Janna. I don't know. That might be the only scenario I could think of, is if you really need to blow somebody up big time and you just want to farm some, you know, free AP stacks off of Janna in lane. Maybe it's okay. Misfortune, still a decent support into Zyra, but they have nerfed lethality a lot. They nerfed Black Cleaver a lot, so she's got a lot of problems. I think she's fun. They nerfed her specifically quite a lot. So, you know, she's fun, but I think there's better picks most of the time. Taric is okay. He's a good team fighter. He just gets completely murdered in lane, and I just think that, you know, someone like a Karma or a Janna or a Lulu is just going to be a better team fighter than Taric. But, I mean, I have had a good game on Taric. He can be okay, but I don't know. He's got some problems. Malzahar, pretty much been nerfed into the dirt. He should probably be lower, but I kept him up here anyways. Like, they've nerfed so many things about his minions. His minions in particular is kind of the big nerf. So he's all right, but I think if you want some good crowd control, lockdown CC, I would just go with Lulu or Fiddlesticks at this point. Lux, decent burst damage, all in if you catch him, does a ton of damage, nice range, very limited utility. So she's okay. I could see picking her sometimes. I played her once as support as a donation game for Squeakers, viewer of ours. So she's okay, but I think there are probably better options. Okay, I'm not going to read over all the rest of these, but just in general, like Rammus, Scion. I am going to make a Scion guide soon. He can be okay. You know, once again, if it's a tank, I'm probably just going to want to go Tahm Kench or Nautilus, but Scion can be okay. Rammus, a lot of problems. You can roam now if you start maxing your Powerball, but he's got a lot of problems. Heimerdinger, he's okay, I guess. You can sort of push with him. Some of these, I'll probably put Heimer lower. Like, Heimer's just really bad. I tried him as support. I think earlier, either today or yesterday. I can't remember. I could see Rumble, like, maybe being up here. I have tried Rumble support before. Has great wave clear, but he's got a lot of problems. Ivern, he really needs to be in the jungle. You know, Cho'Gath can be okay, but you have to last hit to get those stacks. That's bad. Ziggs, good zone control, very vulnerable, very mana hungry early on. Malphite is going to get mowed in lane. Like, you do have a nice ultimate, but that's about it. Skarner can roam, can ult, and pull people into a fight. He's going to have a lot of problems. Annie's okay. Fiddlesticks and Zyra are just better. They have more lane presence. They have more versatility, more utility they bring to the team. Nasus could be, in theory, okay against crit champions. He does have wave clear with his E. His Wither can be quite powerful. If he rushes Eye of the Equinox, he can actually gain stacks. So he can get a stack every 30 seconds. So he's not going to stack as fast as like top lane Nasus, but he can stack in lane some without stealing last hits. And his Wither is... cat hair in my mouth. His Wither is really powerful against attack speed 80 carries, so things like that are really reliant on attack speed, like Caitlyn, like Twitch, like Draven. You know, you cast that Wither on them, it slows their attack speed by half of the amount. So, you know, you can slow their attack speed by, if you max your Wither, You know, you can slow that by 35% by level 5. That's a pretty big attack speed slow. You know, if you combine that with Frozen Heart, if you get that, that's a pretty big... I don't know if those stack additively or not. I doubt it. But either way, you're going to knock out a lot of their attack speed with that Wither. Now, they can QSS the Wither, and a support can Mikhail's it, so it's cute, but it's not hard crowd control. It's not going to stop channels. You can get some stacks, but realistically, you're not going to get a lot. Spirit Fire is some good wave clear, but it's very expensive mana-wise. Fury of the Sands, pretty good in team fights, nice damage, good base resistances that you get, nice bonus health. So it's alright. But anyways, I think he's got a lot of problems. It's okay, it's cute, I've tried it in like a normal game. It's alright, it's not that great. Wukong, just not a lot of great itemization there. They've nerfed lethality items a lot. Poppy, major problem, she's been nerfed into the dirt. Kennen, he can be okay as kind of a poke champion, but once again, if you just want poke, you know, Vel'Koz will probably be your poke champion of choice. If you want the AoE big damage, just go with Fiddlesticks. Kale's okay. She doesn't have a lot of uptime. She needs a lot of money for her items are very expensive. Talia's okay. I haven't tried it. I suspect that Fiddlesticks and Zyra would be better. But overall, good choices. Not great choices, I should say, in Tier 4. So anyways, that's going to be it. Hopefully you enjoyed this super in-depth guide. I didn't intend for this to be this long, but pretty long. I just wanted to reiterate, I have talked about a lot of that stuff on stream. I talk about it in guides, and I have talked about it in past videos. But, you know, for people that are newer to the channel or just kind of want to know how I feel in 7.10 about this stuff, I just wanted to be super detailed about it here. So, anyways, and I haven't tried Jarvan, Shen, or Hecarim as support. I think Jarvan might be sort of kind of viable. Let me pull him up, and that'll be it. So why is Jarvan maybe viable? Now, I haven't tried him, so I don't know for sure. I mean, he can go Redemption, Locket, Knight's Vow, which is a powerful combination. He doesn't get any scaling from the plus healing, which sucks. But he can be sort of a tanky initiate kind of person, which I've just described is not really that great. However, his ultimate is unique. Let me see. Where'd he go? So he's pretty good at Olaf. I thought Olaf would be making more of a comeback. He really isn't. But, you know, if they have champions that don't have ways to dash out of this, out of his ultimate, that can be a really good way to contain things like a Master Yi. I guess Master Yi could Alpha Strike out of it. I don't know. There are certain situations, I guess primarily against Olaf, where there's no way to stop him except for Cataclysm, pretty much. But you can just kind of dunk the back line and just help set up if you have an AoE team. So if you have a Rumble on your team and an Orianna or something like that, you can dunk him, and then Rumble can drop his ult in there, and then Ori can like ult. So he's a pretty good combination with Wombo Combo. Now he doesn't do or he doesn't get a lot of AD, so that's not going to scale very much. I just noticed this has pretty high ratio on AP. I guess you could go AP Jarvan with your Demacian standard. Has okay range. That seems pretty silly. His maximum health, this shield scales with. But, I mean, he does have utility, so if he auto-attacks somebody, he does do some okay burst damage. 10% of the target's current health. That's okay. His Lance Strike does shred up to 26% armor, which is really nice. It has good range. It's very cheap, so you can poke with this in lane. I mean, you poke somebody for, in lane, you know, 160 damage. It only costs 55 mana. It's got 770. And you reduce their armor by 18. I mean, that's pretty good for trading, right? So that's okay. If you combine that with Demacian Standard, you can knock somebody up for a second. And that hands out a nice bonus attack speed of 15% to your allies. You level it up, it's even more. So, I mean, he's got some stuff about him. This could be some decent wave clear, too. I mean, 160 wave clear. That's pretty good because it goes through everybody. So I don't know. I'll have to try him out, but he has decent wave clear, and he has a pretty good roaming level 6 on a short cooldown against immobile things. So, you know, if you dunk that Draven, or you run mid lane and dunk the Ziggs or the Orianna or something, that's pretty good gank potential. And you can close a lot of ground. You know, if you E and then Demacian Standard to get close to him, gap close that 770 and then dunk him. that's a really far engage range. It's like 1400 engage range. So it can be pretty decent. Can be pretty decent, potentially, as sort of a roaming ganker, and he's got good wave clear. Could be a good setup. So I don't know. I mean, maybe he should be as high as tier 3. I'd have to try him out in ranked. But he is someone that, in theory, could make a good support-ish type of champion. So we'll have to see. I'll have to try it out. He could be as high as tier 3. I wouldn't put him much more than that just yet. I mean, maybe. But I would proceed with caution if you want to try it out. But anyways, thank you very much. That's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.